Okay, so Robert Frost is probably one of the most famous American poets of the 20th century. He wrote, he's unusual in that he wrote in traditional meter, right? He used a tetrameter and pentameter usually, and trimeter sometimes he did, but he does it in a very, it's very subtle, like you really don't feel the verse that you do in others, but if you actually do the work to scan the poem, you'll see by the rules of prosody that he's actually very strict. He said writing poetry without meter was like playing tennis with the net down, so he just didn't really like that kind of modern school. But this poem is one of his famous poems. It's called Acquainted with the Night. So are there any words that nobody understands in there? Everybody, it's a pretty simple, he liked to use the Anglo-Saxon words. He has one, well, he's got a couple, but the one word there that is clearly a, luminary, right? What's luminary mean? What's luminous? Yeah, shining, right? Luminous, bright, from lumina, right? Okay. So that's pretty much it. So let's look at this poem. First of all, what was your feeling when you read it? Right? Sha'ir in Arabic means the one who feels. Sha'ara. And sha'ar is hair, because it's that tactile. So the poet feels things. And feeling is very important with poetry, how it gets you. Mauritanian, one thing I really liked when I lived with Mauritanians is that if you quote a line of poetry that they like, they go, like they got hit in the gut, because it's kind of a cultural thing, so it's a funny thing because they do it because they heard their teachers doing it and things. But it's very real, they feel poetry. So what did you feel when you read it? Veronica? Yeah, there's definitely a melancholic feeling to this poem, isn't there? And he uses some words there that evoke a melancholy state, a sad state, right? Like walking out in rain. It doesn't sound like singing in the rain, because he walks out and he walks back in rain. I mean, there's kind of a, it didn't get bright and the sun didn't come out. So there's definitely, and he's got sad in there, drop my eyes. That's what we do when we're sad or depressed. We kind of drop our eyes, and then he actually looks down the saddest city lane, right? So, what else? Okay, there's a wandering going on. Yeah, he's walking out, and we don't really know where he's going. He just tells us he kind of goes past the city lights. It's dark there, and he's not really telling us why. And he's walking around, and the watchman's kind of wondering, "What are you doing out here?" It's kind of a meandering. Anything else?
There's a point to the wandering. There's a point to being in those sad moments.
Yeah,
Acquainted with
There's definitely a point to all this. Yeah, he's learning something, right? Now, what is acquainted? What does that evoke? The word, like he doesn't know the night, huh? Do you think intimacy, acquainted? Familiar is closer, like I'm acquainted with him. I mean, when we talk about an acquaintance, it's not really a friend. He's just somebody we're familiar with. He's not a stranger, but he's not a friend either. So there's a kind of ambiguity there, right? Anything else?
He's accepting what's like the sadness of it. He's just accepting it.
Let's look at it line by line. So we've kind of looked at the whole poem. Now let's look. I have been one acquainted with the night. So right out off the bat, I have been one acquainted. He doesn't say I am acquainted with the night. I have been one. One out of what? Many. Yeah. Okay. So I'm an individual. Like he's declaring his individuality here. I am one. I have been one. Like I'm an individual, and my experience of the night is my own experience, right? So he's right at the outset, he's letting us know This is my experience. I, look at that. I. Right? I mean, he's letting you know this is my experience. I earned this knowledge that I have of the night. And how did I do it? I have walked out in rain and back in rain. Well, what does that mean? I mean, going out at night in rain, do people do that? Sometimes. But why would they do that? Seriously, why would they do that? Generally, what would you think about going out at night in rain? Why would you do that? Well, no, I'm talking about just normal. Don't think of what he's saying. I'm just talking about when somebody goes out at night in rain, what do you usually think about going out at night in rain? You have to, right? There's some kind of emergency or something. But that's not why he's going out at night, right? He's going out for another reason. But normally when we think about, I had to go out last night and it was raining, right? So he's saying, look, I know the night. Like I've gone out even when it's raining. I'm acquainted with different types of nights, even when it's raining, when other people wouldn't go out, right? So I have walked out in rain and then back in rain, right? I have outwalked the furthest city light. What does that mean?
He left the city.
Hmm?
He left the city.
Yeah, but what's it? I have outwalked the furthest city light. He's gone into the darkness. I wasn't content to experience the night when there was still light. I've gone out into the dark. I've outwalked the furthest city light. Right? Now I have looked down the saddest city lane. I mean, what is that? First of all, what is that saddest city lane? Can city lanes be sad? Can they be sad? For the poet, right? He's sad. So lanes can evoke sadness, right? But he's personifying now. So he's giving the city lane the personification, right? He's anthropomorphizing a city lane by telling us it was a sad city lane. Not only sad, he's using the superlative. I have looked down the saddest city lane. Like a ghetto, right? What does that evoke? Some horrible, desolate place, derelict houses, right? And all of our cities have this, don't they? And you can go right down the road, right down here, and you can see the saddest city lane. And there's people living on that lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat. All right? Well, what does that mean? First of all, why do we have watchmen? I mean, watchman's a nighttime job, isn't it? Really, right? Why do we have watchmen? Yeah, security, but why? Yeah, why do you feel insecure in the night? Huh? It's dark, right? What do people do in the dark? Yeah, things they wouldn't do in the light, right? So I've passed by the watchman on his beat. His beat. I mean, it's interesting, his beat, because he's on his beat, right? But he'll also beat you if you try to do something, in what he's watching. So, and drop my eyes unwilling to explain. What is that? Shame, exactly. Yeah, it's shame, isn't it? Like he dropped his eyes. Like the watchman shows up and he dropped his eyes. Why did he drop his eyes? Because he's unwilling to explain. Why is he unwilling to explain? Guilt would be one, but why is he unwilling to explain? He doesn't want to talk about why he's out there. Yeah, but what's he thinking about the watchman? Okay, yeah, the watchman's going to suspect him. Like, what are you doing out here at night? Because you should be at home in your bed, right? So the fact that there's a watchman is because people do nefarious things at night. And he drops his eyes, unwilling to explain, because what is that thing that happens when the policeman shows up and suddenly, like every time I come in through the border, they make me feel guilty. I don't know why. I'm just like, I haven't done anything, but that guy scares me because he makes me feel like I've done something wrong because where have you been? He starts questioning me. Like, where have you been? Who did you see? Was it business or like, why are you asking me all these questions? I feel like I'm being interrogated. And when somebody's interrogating you, you start getting self-conscious because he's suspecting me. He thinks, now why is he suspecting me? Because I'm Muslim, maybe. But I mean, why is he suspecting me? That's his job, right? That's the border patrol. But why does he suspect me? It's his job, but why? Why does he have that job? Because people do things, right? Humans do things. They smuggle, right? They do illegal things, right? So what he's saying there, right, is like, we're all condemned by the acts of some of us. We have some collective shame here, right? Because some people do these heinous things, and because some people do it, everybody becomes suspect. And so I'm dropping my eyes, like feeling this shame, and I'm unwilling to explain that it's this kind of collective guilt that we all have because some of us do these things. I might not be doing it, but I still feel that. I don't want him to suspect me. I drop my eyes. Right? I don't want him to suspect me. But because people do these things, I'm feeling that. Right? And then I have stood still. Right? So he's walking along. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet. Right? His own feet. Right? Why? When far away an interrupted cry. Right? What does that mean, interrupted cry? What's an interrupted cry? I mean, a cries interrupt us, but what's an interrupted cry? How is a cry interrupted? It's stopped, isn't it? So like somebody's, ah, and then suddenly it stops. That's a little spooky, isn't it? Have you heard somebody screaming and suddenly the screaming just stopped? You stop and you're like, what just happened? And he's going to tell us, but not to call me back or say goodbye. It wasn't that kind of cry. Goodbye, Robert, or Robert, come home. It was a blood-curdling cry because dark things happen at night. People are killed at night, right? Murders happen, robberies, all these things happen at night. Okay, now he's on the terrestrial plane. Now what's he do? And further still, at an unearthly height. Something now is changing, right? What's he doing now? He's looking up, right? So he looks up, and what does he see? Right? What does he see? Yeah, he doesn't really tell us. He gives us some hints. It's luminary. It's one, so it could be the moon, but it's one what? A clock. It's one clock, and a clock has many parts, right? It's got hands, it's got the numbers, it's got, so, and this is the thing about poetry. This is my interpretation. You're free to have your own, right? Because that's the beauty of poetry. For me, because I know his poetry reasonably well, and I know for a fact that he was very familiar with the stars, and he writes, stars come into his poems a lot. Like he's got poems about Orion kind of going over the fence, out watching Orion leap over his fence. So he knew that time, and he spent a lot of time at night walking those lanes. He knew that the night sky is a clock. Like I learned this when I went to the Sahara. So he looks up, and what does he see? One luminary clock against the sky, right? So suddenly that darkness is penetrated by what? By light, okay? So he sees the light at night. And what does that light proclaim? Because it's a clock. And what is a clock? It tells time. Nighttime, we call it nighttime and daytime. So there's two experiences of life on earth, right? The Quran talks about Allah made the night and the day khilfatan, like they alternate. لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يَتَذَكَّرَ أَوْ أَرَادَ شُكُورًا. The one who wants to become aware, to be reminded, and show gratitude, right? So what does he say? And further still, at an unearthly height. So we're in the celestial realm. He's left the earth now of sad city lanes and interrupted cries and watchmen looking for criminals. All that dark stuff that happens in the dark, he's left that. And now he's looking at a luminary light in the sky. And what's the light proclaiming? Proclaimed. That luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time is neither wrong nor right. What does he mean? Musab, what's he mean? What does he mean neither wrong nor right? What's wrong and right? First of all, what is that? What's that demarcation? It's a moral demarcation, right? Wrong and right is about morality. Now, who are the moral beings on this planet? Humans, right? Animals, if the lion eats you, you don't say it's an immoral lion. It's a hungry lion, and you just happen to be there. You can't impose. The lion has no moral agency because it doesn't have free will. It's an instinctual animal. It's acting on instinct. But humans act, right? They act based on moral agency. And so what's he telling us about what the heavens are proclaiming? What's he telling us? What's the heaven proclaiming? What's he realizing looking up in the heavens? The nighttime, the darkness and evil that men do at night is not about the time. It's not because it's nighttime. That's not what's wrong with the night. What's wrong with the night is us. We're what's wrong. The night's just neutral. It's what you do in the night that's going to determine whether the night is a good night or a bad night, right? Those are what humans do in the night. But he's saying, I've seen something else about the night. The night's much deeper than all this darkness. There's stillness at night. There's tranquility at night. There's peace at night. There's clarity at night. There's unity at night. There's all these other things. Time is neither wrong nor right. Right? It's what we do in time that makes it wrong or right. Right? I have been one acquainted with the night. Right? Anyway, that's one way to look at it. There's other ways, you know.
It means that the observer is responsible to decide that what is right and what is
I don't think it's no, because that would be like relativism. I don't think he's talking about relativism. I think to me, what he's saying is by looking up at the heavens, what the heavens are declaring, those lights in the night, what they're declaring is it's not the time. It's, you know, the sadness of that city lane at night, the trouble that the rain causes at night, the watchman looking for criminals at night, that blood-curdling cry that's interrupted that we hear at night, that's not, you know, that's not what makes the night. The night isn't wrong or right. It's what humans do that makes it wrong or right. The night is something stunning. It's something beautiful. We shouldn't be afraid of the darkness of the night. It's something to be acquainted with. There's power in the night because in the night the stars come out. In the night we can look up and see. You know, Plato said that God put stars in the sky so that people could look up and observe the order of the heavens. And in seeing celestial order, desire to bring that order back down to the earth. Right? As above, so below. He's watching the perfection of the night in the skies, and it obliterates those imperfections that we see here. You know, there's something much higher that when we elevate, when we look up, that's what will elevate us from all this horrible stuff that's going on down here. Because this isn't, don't let this determine your experience of the world. Right? Don't let what's happening down here. I mean, I was on the way today, you know, and I was late for something, and I saw this peregrine perched up on the, and he was just so noble, you know, and he was just perched up on the lantern, you know, on the street light. He was just perched there, and he was just like, and I was just like, what does he know? You know, what does the falcon know? Right? What does he know? He knows he's amazing. I'm not a sparrow. I'm not a blue jay. He knows. And you can see it in him, like just the way he looks around. He has, all the other birds, they're scared. They're all running around, little thing, they fly off. He doesn't. He's just like, I'm at the top here. I know I am. That, you know, humans are something amazing. Right? Humans are amazing. And you can look at all that darkness out there and you can decide that, oh, the world's wrong. But look a little higher. Elevate your head. You'll hear something proclaimed from the heavens. Time is neither wrong nor right. It's what you do with your time that makes it wrong or right.